he doesn't want me to hold him. He was sleeping on top of the file cabinet. And I thought I'd pick him up and put him in the video because people like him, and he's saying no, 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 no. No cloth I can lay on. No. Oh, hello. I did lots of little odds and ends of things since last week. Not really struck by any big inspirations to do big projects. I have not done anything else in the robot doll because I'm still trying to solve her feet design issues. Queen of Squids suggested that I look at like Transformers or small robot action figure type things in thrift stores in the toy bin, and I've been looking at them since then. I've been to the thrift stores a few times and I haven't seen any that are appropriate, but that is something I'm going to keep looking out for as far as feet go. Chris suggested that I sculpt them, and I am not good at sculpting, well, sculpting, but especially not flat, geometrical, symmetrical forms. So I will be keeping my eye out for robot feet to pirate. And on Sunday, was it Saturday? I think it was Sunday. I thought, well, I'm gonna do a really fast reroot. I'm gonna grab this clone doll head that doesn't have a lot of hair. Remember, with the wild blue eye paint. And I'm gonna reroot her really fast. Well, the thing is, if I had stuck to the amount of rooting holes she had originally, I probably could have had her done in a very short amount of time. But as it was, I spent a lot of time adding extra rooting holes just on the front of the hairline. And also I had to figure out how to compensate for the fact that, of course, her center part was rooted so badly that it was just one big open hole in the front. I didn't boil her before I started rooting. Boiling vinyl head can make the rooting hole shrink back down, but I didn't on her because it still would have been a gash and not a hole in the front. So I took some time to make sort of a widow's peak. And this was like an hour and a half to do the hairline. And I just said, ugh, I wasn't feeling it. You know, sometimes, against my better judgment, I can spend all 6 hours in one day rerooting a doll head. But this one, I stopped. I thought I was completely done. I was never going to come back to her. I was going to find somebody else to give this to finish. But I might finish it. Now that I've stepped away a bit. Of course, getting up, looking at her so close, I can see now how her eye paint, the mask wasn't very... It's flush with her head on this side, so it's all fluffy and fuzzy, and on this side it's very precise and sharp and not where it should be for her lashes. I'm babbling, aren't I? So that's one thing that I did on Sunday. And then another day, actually it's a Saturday, well, I did some things on Saturday. Before that, I went ahead and I put this, the high-low trapeze shirt that I shared the pattern for, I put the same shirt that had been on the original size Barbie body, and I put it on the curvy body, and as you can see, it fits very roomy, no problem. It was a little bit of a problem getting it around this curve, the sharp curve in her elbow, but that's pretty true with any sleeve shirt. So you can see it fits curvy just fine. So I guess I will put another link to this shirt pattern, which is on Flickr, in the description. Again, this, as far as my experience with doll sewing is, I've been doll sewing for at least 20 years at this point, but only seriously for like 17 years. But this hem, this curved hem, is going to be the hardest part of it. Well, I use my rolled hem foot, but you put this in the sewing machine and you kind of fold the edge of the cloth over it and feed it through this spiral, and that it takes some practice, but that's how you can get this really small hem. And I know that Mattel does that too, it's just that theirs don't roll it over twice, they just roll it over once, which actually is all that happened here. Normally it rolls over twice, but I think what I showed you is rolled over once, and I'm babbling again. But these are actually really useful for finishing doll hems. So there's that. And then the Space Pops doll that I opened last week. I went over her face with some acetone. I took off all those freckles. I don't have a problem with freckles, but I don't have a problem with the blue freckles. But it's just the triangle shape of them and the way they were scattered. I did not like those freckles. So I took those off. Unfortunately, I was a little sloppy with the acetone, and I took off a touch of the pink paint under her eye. And the fluorescent pink paint I had that was close was not that close, so I put some of that under both eyes to cover up the mistake on the one eye. And I also painted over the white speckles inside her blue eyes with some sort of blue-gray paint that doesn't really match. And then to make the different color pink under her eyes now kind of makes sense, I put pink spots on the other side. Anyway, here's her face now. And you see the way I dressed her is very different from her stock outfit. For one thing, everything is hemmed. This piece, what her dress is made out of, was somebody I knew from Flickr would get thrifted vintage sheets and make fat quarters out of them and sell them. And so this is actually, the hem on this dress was the original hem from the sheet. But I'm pretty proud of the way I got her hair split in the back so you don't see any rooting holes. Well, not too many. Anyway, so the thing about this doll is she could not sit without splaying. Now, like I always say, there's no problem posing your doll with a splayed seating position. It's just kind of annoying to have the doll engineered so that her legs splay out. So I had to spend some time, I didn't have to, I chose to spend some time with the Dremel. And I'm going to take her clothes off to show you, but I have to strip her down completely because this black lace thing is a bodysuit, and I didn't think about that when I was getting her dressed. Okay, so I don't have before images. You can probably find reviews of these dolls that show them nude, but you can actually get an idea by how much of this peg is exposed. That area used to be covered up by the hip. The hip came all the way over to here so that when you moved her legs, they stuck out like that. But now I have ground out enough. I ground out inside the pelvis, and I also ground out a bit on the upper thigh. I probably could have ground out more. This is actually fairly thick plastic, and it's hard plastic, so I didn't have my irritations that I have with vinyl. The stuff just flakes right away once you grind it. When you grind vinyl, it just kind of gumbles. So now she can just about cross her legs. I could have taken more out in her thighs and possibly even in the pelvis, but definitely more out in the thighs to allow her to fully cross her legs. But a lot of dolls can't cross their legs anyway, so it's not a problem. And as you can see, I also used acetone successfully to get the painted socks mostly off of her feet. There's still some stuck in the seam lines, some paint. And she did not have stains from the pink paint because actually the entire sock was painted blue and then the pink was painted on top of it for accents. So she's an okay Star Darlings have those hips, horribly engineered hips that I have not yet figured out how to fix. Instead of the hip pin going in like this, the hip pins on Star Darlings go in like that. So you can kind of rotate her leg out at an angle, but she can't. I will figure out how to fix a Star Darling eventually, but I misspoke. This is, of course, a Space Pop. Space Pops, it's an okay body and an okay doll. For $20 even, I know $20 isn't a huge amount for a doll, but you shouldn't have needed to do this much tweaking to the basic engineering of it. For $5 or less, I guess it's an okay doll. I would do this to any other of them that I would happen to get. I'm not sure if I'll get any others, but she's okay, like her. Just wish didn't have to do so much work. This is an engineering problem that is easy to solve. If I can do it with a Dremel, then a toy engineer should be able to do it with their CAD/CAM program. Anyway, so that's the dolly dressing I did. And then I just decided to do some quick little paint touch-up type projects. One of which is this Twyla painted by John. and sent to me a while ago. It's very pretty, very sweet, but John and I both agreed that her eyebrows, which were aqua, were just, we weren't sure if it was the position or the color, or they needed work. So actually what I decided to do was I painted over them with purple. And I tried to make them a little bit thicker and draw them down. I was hoping to make her look snarky, because, you know, snarky's great. From some angles she almost looks snarky, but she still looks very sweet. So that was I would say quick repaint. It probably took me longer than you would expect to just paint over these eyebrows because I didn't want to destroy things. And then another doll that I had who I decided to do a quick overpaint on was that Cactus Cutie that was sent to me, and I put the head on an old Articulated Fashionistas. She's just a little bit, as we say, wonk-eyed. Her eyes didn't quite focus, so I painted over her eyeballs and gave her a very stylized side glance. And I really like her now. She's, I'm not sure if I'll put her on the shelf. Another thing I did over the weekend was I put some more dolls into storage. And I know it's normal for most people to put dolls in storage when they're not really into them anymore, but I have, for this entire century, what I have done is when I've started to get bored with a doll or action figure, I've found a new home for it. And mostly that's not a problem, but there are a few that I wouldn't mind if I still happen to have them. So I cleared about 20 dolls off the shelves into various small boxes that fit on the bottom shelf of this bookcase behind me. And so they will be set aside. We'll see if I open those boxes in a while and am still lukewarm on the dolls, or if I looked at it and say, oh, that's great, it's like having a new doll. We'll see that happen. So I'm not sure how long she will be on the shelf or how long she will go before she goes into one of those boxes. But I do like her with the side glance. Even though, yes, she has an open mouth smile. I like her open mouth smile. I'm not sure why I don't normally like open mouth smile dolls, but here we are. And then the other doll I painted over was in one of the boxes of dolls and doll parts I've been sent fairly recently, was a craft head, vintage craft head. It was kind of pose doll style. It was supposed to be an angel. It had closed eyes and very, for pose doll, subdued red lips. Well, I'd had it actually in the pencil holder on my desk to look at all the time, because of course pose dolls are great, but the closed eyes just weren't doing it for me. And I looked at it and I thought, wait a minute, I shared that tutorial a while ago about how to paint eyes like this. I can do this. So I took that head and I painted some big open eyes on her. It is not perfect pose doll style because I like a lot of things, I know the theory behind how to paint this stuff, and that's what's covered in the video. Is basically you take a sponge or something, and it's round with the black paint on it, and you stamp that on first, and then you start building the other colors up on top of it. I'm just not terribly good at it. Like the sponge I used to stamp on it was a little bit wider than it should be, bigger than it should have been, so her eyes end up bigger than most pose doll eyes, a lot closer to her eyebrows than most pose doll eyes. And I painted over her lips with the same pink that I used in the eyes and the same pink that I used on my mistakes in her. And incidentally, my husband's been using that pink lately too. He's been painting miniatures for the Infinity game, and the cyber squad he has like hot pink accents on it, so he's been using that pink. That's been a popular paint lately. So I did her face in all brights, and yes, her head's not on super tight, so it flops around, but. So that's the doll painting I did. A couple quick projects. Nothing huge, nothing long term, but it got stuff done and I got stuff off the shelf. And then I decided that I wanted to try some patchwork. A few years ago, I'd gone through my doll cloth and pulled out all the pieces that I thought I would never use for doll cloth again, for doll clothes. And I did a couple different piles of a couple different colors, and I put them in the top of the closet back there, and a few I got into right away and sewed right away, and then the rest of them languished. So I pulled one down that it was reds, orange, yellow, and greens, and I wasn't feeling it. But I looked at it again, and I pulled out reds with whites and a few more from my doll cloth that I've accumulated since then. And then I had also thrifted this, obviously white with red. So I want to make these into a big patchwork project, but I haven't figured out what pattern yet. So it was with that in mind, the idea that I want to make patchwork. Eventually I'll make quilts, but right now I'm just making patchwork. I walked into the thrift store today, and I looked on the random toy bin and didn't find any robot feet or anything else. And I looked in the cloth, and I thought maybe if there had been any more things that would coordinate with this, I would buy it. There wasn't, I didn't. But then there was this big bin, probably 4 feet by 4 feet by 4 feet, with the sign on it that said, everything you can fit into a big bag out of this bin for $10. So I spent my time going through there. I pulled like 4 all cotton sheets that will be good to use for the backing for these patchwork blankets eventually. And I pulled odds and ends, like it was full of linens, the bin. So I pulled like several different pillowcases with eyelet on it. Not that I need more eyelet, you know, we've seen through my lace and trim stash sorting video that I have a lot of eyelet, but I have some more now. And lace curtains and some handkerchiefs and some placemat things and just all sorts of things that I've pretty much grabbed it all with the idea of using it for doll clothes. I just have to get back into the mood to sew doll clothes. But I want to get this. I don't know if I will actually sew this or if I will shuffle this around for a while and then put it away in the top of the closet with the other unfinished patchwork blanket projects. Because I'm a lot better at coming up with projects than I am with actually getting in the mood to do them. And I think that's enough rambling for this week. I hope you've had a good week. See you around.